Welcome to our wonderful listeners. So today on the podcast, we're going to be exploring how to make sex more comfortable when sex is not comfortable. My guest today is Emily Sauer. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have this conversation because I think it's going to be a really important one to help validate what women are going through and learn about some solutions.
Yeah, women and I would just say partners in general, because it's definitely discomfort during sex is totally shared.
Yes.
So hopefully this is a collective conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought maybe the best place to begin our conversation is to build a little context, and maybe you can share sort of your story, your personal experience, and like how you became so passionate about solving, painful sex.
Yeah. So, that's a loaded question. It's amazing how I just have to talk about my vagina with like the snap of a finger these days. But I've really come a long way from where I started. So painful sex for me happened when penetration went too deep in the pelvic floor. And the only time I ever talked about it was at my annual GYN appointment. So I never mentioned it during sex. I never mentioned it outside of sex to any partner. I never talked to friends or family about it because I assumed that no one understood what I was going through. And I assumed that pain during sex was normal because that's often what we're taught. So that one time of year I did bring it up at my gynecologist's office. I was all but rushed out the door and given very minimal suggestions like try lube. I was told once to have a glass of wine, which is it's very discouraging, and just to essentially work around it as opposed to actually seeking out the root cause of the issue. So as a result, I assumed that this discomfort was my problem and not theirs.
Right.
And it's one thing if that happens like once or twice, and then it's another if it happens for 10 years.
Right.
It's like what happens to the body and the brain when we're expecting pain in these very specific scenarios.
Well, you begin to anticipate it, which then just gives you more pain, right?
Absolutely. The whole body constricts and reacts. It's like if you're expecting something to pinch or poke or punch in a certain way, there might even be so much resistance so as to avoid intimacy entirely. So it doesn't even get to the point where that pain could occur because things like making out, things like cuddling, things like holding hands, like basic forms of affection are potentially indicative, or it means that one partner might have to tell the other, I'm not interested.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what started to happen at the time that I came up with Ohnut. I felt absolutely destroyed. I was shattered when sex was painful, and I lost all confidence in myself as a person, as a woman, as a partner. And without any support or ability to communicate to anyone else, I had to come up with something myself because I needed something to do. I had to do something. And that's when I figured if I could control how deep penetration goes, maybe I won't feel so terrible about myself. Maybe I won't feel so terrible about my relationship. Maybe things won't look so bleak. Which also just goes to show how much sexual health impacts our daily lives, which we deny in most respectable education channels.
Yeah. Well, we're really just not talking about it. In depth enough, where it's sort of like normalized, like, oh, well, yeah, of course it's going to hurt the first time, or like, yeah, I might be uncomfortable with this. And, you just got to kind of deal with it rather than kind of having the conversation like, oh, something might be common. There might be common experiences, just like incontinence, right? It's a common thing, but it's not normal.
Totally. So exactly that. There's a lack of questioning on the fact that even just acknowledging that there is a complication. And then it's almost impossible to imagine the possibility of there being a team that could help or a product that could help along the way.
Right.
It's as if it's not even worth, it's not even possible for it to get better. It just is. And we stop there without asking any more. And that is really what drove the initial stages of the product, because I started asking, like, why didn't my doctors help? What was it? What was I not doing? What was I not saying? Why didn't I feel confident to speak up to any partners? And then the second I started talking about it, all of those walls broke down. And it became very clear what's happening in the medical space, what's happening in the bedroom, or what's not happening. And then as soon as you start the dialogue, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
You know,
When did that moment come for you? Like, when did you just decide, like, you know what, I'm just going to start like talking about it and talking about it and talking about, like, you know, what was that moment for you?
so can you imagine being afraid of something that is like seemingly destroying your entire identity?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's something that creates a paradigm shift where it's no longer your fault. And there's something that you can do about it.
Right.
And that something has actually a low barrier to entry. Like it's quite easy if you just take that step and try. So when I felt that sense of freedom for the first time with this very silly idea about putting a donut around a penis, like it's the most delightful idea in the context of the most saddened one. And that literally just made my mouth just go.
Yeah, and we'll demonstrate it for those who are watching this on video. On audio, we'll try to describe it as best as possible. But what I wanted to ask you before we get into that piece is, like, what were some other things you tried? Was there anything that was working for you a little bit, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then, like, how did this idea sort of come to you?
You know what? How did the idea come to me? Also, can I say that, like, the P word is that? Are you going to be editing this?
No, well, I generally don't, but go ahead and use words that you want to use.
Okay, I'm like, the P word. I feel like a child. Okay, great.
No, we use technical terms here because there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to naming parts exactly what they are.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, does like iTunes have a problem with that? Like, did the institutions have a problem? Okay, that's great. Great, thank you for clarifying. So the question was, how did it take shape, or like what was the process of coming up with the thing? You know, pillows are understood to be a helpful way of rotating hips during sex, well, which is really interesting because depending on where you put that pillow underneath your hips, they don't tell you if you want to have like a posterior or anterior pelvic tilt. They're just use a pillow, it'll be great. You know, what is it that actually helps? Because ultimately it could make it go deeper if you're angled a certain way. So I looked up sex pillows to potentially help me address the depth control or reduction for me. And the only sex pillows I could find were touting deeper penetration, explosive orgasms, like perform, you know, it's like the bigger, harder, orgasmic, everything. And that didn't, I was like, I don't know the person who they're trying to sell to because that's not me.
Right.
And then there was, beyond that, lubrication seems to be the catch-all that doctors recommend, but that's just like trying to take Advil to solve everything, which is not, that doesn't.
Long term, it wasn't necessarily a long term solution, or not even. I mean, it didn't change the depth. It just made it slide easier, right?
Yeah, and actually, it had nothing to do again with the root cause of the pain. So and then I looked up on the internet just to find any other products for painful sex, and I ended up on porn sites. It's like that's not what I'm looking for. Like, does anyone speak my language? And it was no, like nothing that wasn't like overly clinical or like surgical or hormone therapies, that with all these big words that I didn't understand and that were really quite scary.
Yeah.
So the more research I actually did to try to help myself, the less I wanted to do it, the less I wanted to continue that research and learn.
Did the medical system ever come to a conclusion for you, like, as to why that was happening?
Yeah, I've seen a couple clinicians. It actually wasn't very clear, and now, yeah, I have a good handle on it.
Okay.
it's not the kind of thing that goes away overnight either. A lot of times, sometimes people go into their doctors, like ask us, like sex is painful, and then expect that it be fixed with a week-long taking of a pill. That's
Right. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
how culture works nowadays. And when it comes to pelvic pain, it can take longer, as you know.
And oftentimes it's factorial. Like there's more than just one reason. And of course, if you've been experiencing pain for a little while, you're going to anticipate it. So it's almost like you have to retrain yourself to not think that this act is dangerous.
Yeah.
And then you got to deal with the physical sensations as well. Yeah.
Totally. So, I mean, one of my favorite parts about the product is that, revolving around this idea of the biopsychosocial model. So, because female arousal is very much informed, not just by physical input or physical sensation. You have the biological, which is like body integrity, hormones, the psychological, I mean, all of this, but the psychological being emotions, self-esteem, body image, and then social could be cultural, religious beliefs, and relationships. So what Ohnut starts to do, like, it isn't just a physical product. It is the thing that sparks a sense of self-confidence, a reevaluation of body image, and then it opens up that dialogue between partners for the first time. And then on top of that, like, the sheer fact that this product exists indicates that enough people have this complication that's worth addressing. It validates, like you said, it validates the experience that so many of us assume is an experience in solitude. We oftentimes feel so isolated. We internalize pain as a character fault. There's all these things that keep us insular, but it's the collective silence that's broken down.
Yeah.
It's as simple as this. So
Absolutely.
It's starting again to change those cultural beliefs around it as well. So, I don't know how we got there, but
well, we're going to bring it back to. So we were talking about, you were looking on the market, and everything that you were seeing wasn't really speaking to you, because it was all about like optimizing. When sex is going good, how do you make it better? But nothing seemed to be coming across that you could find that says, okay, well, how do I just get to like a place where sex is pleasurable versus uncomfortable? And you weren't finding anything there, and there weren't any products on the market. So then what happened?
I mean, and even just to add to that, it's like, it's not even just like, is how to, when sex is good, as that, the existing products, how to make it better. It's just like, when sex is good, how to make it the best.
Yeah.
Everyone's so obsessed with this, like, hyper focused orgasm language that's hyper physical pleasure focused. And again, recognizing that it is not just the physical part of sex that makes it what it is. It's almost like, if I started to ask people, what is the purpose of sex?
What answers did you get?
They're amazing. It's actually, it's not a very big range. The purpose of sex is to it kind of, it's like bounces around this like very spiritual, very like logistical.
Yes.
Obviously taking reproduction off the table, but it is a way to fundamentally connect and embody oneself with another as they do. It's a way to become one with another person, and to feel whole in that collective. And ultimately, like, that's not about orgasms. That's not what sex is.
Yeah.
And
it's certainly a nice byproduct.
Sure.
But it's not the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So in coming up with the product, I mean, what I loved about the early product development was talking to people about experiences. I got on the phone with any and everyone who wanted to talk about painful sex, whether I knew them, I didn't know them, whether they just had questions, whether it was family or friends, or if it was clinicians. I really just started to network with any and everyone. And the common theme was that people have so many questions and are dying to have this conversation. So it was very clear that there's a disconnect between the medical side and then the cultural side, like the cultural education side. So how can we position this product as an education tool and not just something that can help out with comfort in the bedroom? And in doing that, we learned like very little detail. So actually, if we want to talk about the product now, maybe we can do that, and then I'll get into the customer.
I will just kind of first and foremost show the box. It is back. Well, to me, the writing is backwards, but it's Ohnut. And you can see the little picture. I'm going to bring out my silicone one. So the box that it came in, by the way, came in such a beautiful package. So basically there's the 3 rings and the 4th one, and I'll pull it out. I'll be your Vanna White.
Ooh, wow. You probably have nicer hands than I do.
Yeah. So the nice part, the nice part is all these pieces come apart, right? And obviously they come back together. And for the people who are on the audio, so basically they look like little donuts. They're silicone. They're very, very stretchy. For those of you watching, you can clearly see that. And then you can stack multiple ones to find your depth, if I got that correct.
Yeah. So they're worn at the base of a penetrating partner. So if you imagine the way that a ring toss works, if you were to throw a ring toss, like it sits at the base. Yep, there you go. Boop. And so you put lubrication on first, and then you slide the Ohnuts down. You can slide them back up. You can slide them back down, back up, back down, should you choose to do that.
Yep.
And at the deepest point of penetration, what they do is they compress down. So they stay outside of the body, and they compress down to act kind of like a bumper.
Yep.
Boop.
Bumper.
Yep. We're getting demonstration right now.
Yep.
But because you can add rings and take rings away, there becomes this dialogue around, like, let's try this position, let's add a ring, let's try this position, let's take one away. How does this feel? There are questions, and also because the body is different every time we have sex, so it's not like there's a progression. It's not like you start with more and you end with less as you, quote, get better. It's like, you know what? Last Tuesday, I was really stressed, and the deeper positions didn't feel good. Like, that's totally cool. Let's use an extra ring.
And it makes it easy. Like it seems easy to use, easy to handle, and gives you the option to modify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the fly.
Yeah.
Like there's no, at any point in time, it allows both partners to adjust. I mean, it's like landing on me. It's because sometimes we think we make a decision and it's fixed, or it's like, oh, like, can you do this thing? And then it starts to happen and you're like, but actually it doesn't feel good, but I asked for it. So how do I ask for that to change? It's like, how do we create a space where changes are a good thing and not necessarily that someone's doing something wrong?
And creating, and it sounds like, this really involves creating a safe space with your partner to begin to discuss, like, hey, this is what's going on, and I really, I love and care about you. This is important to me. You're important to me. Like, I really want to work on making this work for both of us. And but I am wondering, like, for the male who may be wondering, so like, I just want to do a little myth busting is like, is it going to decrease their sensation or impact their ability to reach orgasm? Is it going to be uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's amazing. Most people, when I tell them about their product, the first question they often ask is, how does it feel for a penetrating partner? How does it feel for a man? Which is funny because it's designed for the couple, primarily keeping in mind the female-bodied individual who's experiencing discomfort. That being said, it is worn by a man, so it's important to address that.
Yeah.
The feedback that we generally get is that they forget that it's there. And it's amazing. It ends up contributing so positively to the experience, because imagine having sex with a partner and they're in pain because of something that is a result of the act that is happening together.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's internalized as the male partner's fault.
Right. And they feel they feel bad. Like, they don't want to hurt.
They don't want to hurt you. Yeah. And if they do, go find another guy. oh my goodness, like
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
if they don't care. I mean, but it's, uh, hmm. I hope that it's an of course situation. Sometimes relationships aren't as simple as that. But anyways, needless to say, when both partners can actually relax and not be fearful of either being in pain or hurting the partner,
Yeah.
and then add the layer on top of that, when that relaxation happens, there's an opportunity to really be in your body during sex, and the partner can be in your body, and then you could just enjoy yourself and each other and be fully present. And in that moment, noticing how much the other partner is really enjoying themselves informs the physical experience. What does it feel like? What does it physically feel like when your partner is enjoying themselves?
Yeah.
It feels awesome. And so often we're so tied up in like, oh, I have to wear this thing. Oh, I have to, oh, like, how is it going to take away? Oh, like my ego, because I'm not good enough. And I need this thing to do my job better, whatever. When actually it's just reaching this common ground that makes both partners that much more satisfied and fulfilled by the sexual relationship.
Do you have any tips for, like there may be some women who are a little bit more shy, like,
Yeah.
or just thinking about like you not wanting to tell your partner you're in pain. You're a woman, you're either, maybe listening, or you come across this on the internet, you buy the product. It's like, how might they, like, any tips on how to approach your partner, like to talk about using this?
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it starts with a conversation. So I'd say first and foremost, it's really important to know that there are other people who are going through exactly the same thing.
Yes, you're not alone.
You are not alone, and your sexual experience is important.
Mm.
So starting just acknowledging that it's really important to feel intimate and connected with a partner. And it's like, I don't know. I'm curious for you to read the letter in the beginning of the box.
Oh.
I might actually be able to find it.
No, I got it. Would you like me to read it out?
Yeah, because I think
Okay.
as a part of that conversational piece,
Okay.
first part starts with
You made it. Yeah. You made it. A big congratulations, not only on your new Ohnut, but also on all the hard work that led you here. The journey is never easy. I tell you with my full heart, you are sexy, exactly the way you are. You are a problem solver, a shoulder to lean on, a spreader of joy. You put a lot of love out there, and you deserve to live that love you share. So in the spirit of curiosity, embrace adjustment, awkward moments, and small, mighty victories. And know deep down, but not too deep, that you are doing great. Now go play. All my love, Emily.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I mean, going back a couple steps to that initial search for products that spoke to me as a person. It's like, what would I have wanted to hear at the time when I needed support the most? And it is that I am worthy and capable of the kind of affection, of just affection and connection with another person. And so it's really important to share that with others. It's just as that jumping off point. So once that happens, the way to actually bring it up with a partner can be, there's so many ways to do it. One is like, it's bringing up a neutral, objective data point. So I read this article that said 75% of women will have painful sex in their lifetime. How crazy is that? I think I might be one of them. Some kind of common ground, just going to show how common it is. That's one way to do it. Another way, it's maybe a little silly, but it's like, oh, I was talking to a friend and they bought this thing and they said it was great. I think we should totally try it. Just that social proof is oftentimes very helpful. And then what else? I have a lot of times starting from a place of again, it's really important to care for the partner in the
Yes.
delivery of this information so that they don't feel threatened or defensive or, again, at fault. So speaking from a place of I is really important. Like, our sex life is really important to me, and I would like to talk about the way in which, like, right now it's a bit more challenging. It doesn't feel the same, or something has changed, and I'd really like to work through it with you so that we can both get connected again, because that's what means so much to me. And I love this about our relationship, and I love this about how we're physical together, but there's something that I can't quite get a grasp on right now, and I'd love to work through it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, right? Just kind of, reaffirming the importance of the relationship and the importance of the intimacy, and like that, hey, like I'm gonna, I want to figure this out. So it's not like, you're sort of feeling defeated. It's like, no, we're gonna work on this together.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, in even just like small reframes, instead of, it's like when you go too deep, when you do this thing, it's kind of like when penetration goes too deep, when we're doing this thing.
Or
So
this
again,
position,
yes,
when we're
sometimes
in this position.
absolutely, absolutely. That is like crucial in not just being like, when you do this, I feel this.
Yeah.
Again, that can land pretty hard. Another thing to do, again, kind of what you were saying, is to reframe it in positive. So many people are hesitant to bring up the conversation because it's all these things that is seemingly they can't do. It's framed as a problem. I am suffering. This is a problem. However, the flip side of that is like, hey, this is kind of a part of who I am right now. This is what we can do. This is what feels good. Like, let's try these things out. Like, this one's off the table, doesn't feel so great. Let's do these. And all of a sudden it creates a space for hope and possibility as opposed to restriction.
Yeah, absolutely. And it may not necessarily be a forever thing as
Totally.
well, right? It could be just like, this is like this small chapter in our life story. I'm just having some troubles right now. This still allows us to be intimate while I'm working on figuring out what's going on through the medical community, and that, right? It gives a solution in the interim while working on other treatments and things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to that point, I get, like, oftentimes the treatment plans are really long. They're oftentimes unclear. They change, which is a part of the process. Ohnut is oftentimes a thing that people can try right away.
Yeah.
And when you use it, you have to use it with some semblance of care, because, you have to put lubrication on first. That's kind of fun. Like, lubrication is the best sex toy of all time. So
Yeah.
you get to use lube. Like, take a minute with that. What are we in a rush to do? Like, lubricate. Like, let's lube everything.
Right. Let's have some fun with it, right? Let's be
God.
intimate without it, like, just being a couple moments and then it's like straight on to penetration. Like,
Oh,
actually
for sure.
foreplay and have fun, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing is also, so, I mean, you can use Ohnut for manual sex and oral sex as well, because you're lubed up. It can go up and down, which
Yep.
is kind of fun. What's also great about it is that you can pause during penetration. So I'd say, like, you just want to take a break for whatever reason. That's awesome. Here are other things that you could do with it. Like, you don't just have to do foreplay, penetration, finish. It's like, let's be on the playground of activities and
Yeah.
get them all out of order. And they don't have to be fast. They don't have to be intense. Like, you could be operating at a 9, like, ready to explode. Let's take that back down to 3 and see how, like, what 3 feels like after you've already been at 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways to use it that it really, it comes to life when life is given to it. And it does. It can. Oh, sorry, you just, like, got me really excited.
I know it's good. It's good. But, like, this is right. Like, having a conversation around sex when it's uncomfortable doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be the end, right? Like, it doesn't need to seem like a down discussion,
Yeah.
right? Like, there are things that can be done. there are treatment options, and then there's like devices and things that you can use as well,
Totally.
right? It's just that people don't know about it, right? And that's the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say the interesting thing about that, like that partnership communication that people don't know about, and then all of a sudden it comes out within a partnership. I have been in a couple dynamics where the male partner or penetrating partner kind of speaks about it on the other's behalf, and it's not well received. So if at any point in time there is a group conversation, or just know that even though the dialogue is now open, it's still very, very, very sensitive. And to disclosing that information to other people, it has to come with permission, in a very, like, that has to be a conversation in its own right. Like, hey, I'd rather we not talk about this in front of people. We can ask questions about it, but let's not bring it back to our sex lives.
Right.
And then we can talk about it again privately. That's like very important, not to call out a partner. It's like flip the switch. If your partner had erectile dysfunction, you wouldn't announce that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Being sensitive to, because it is hard, right? Like, it's not easy to go through something like this. And so we want to be sensitive for anybody who's going through something, that there should be conversations centered around that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then I'm also like totally open to suggestions about communication styles too. If there's anything, if any of the listeners have any ideas about how they have already brought it up, or how they would be hesitant to bring up, or would want to, or, is it better like during the credits of a movie, or over brunch, or like maybe not at Thanksgiving dinner, but maybe.
Yeah. Right. And that's actually a good little segue, because I was going to ask you, like, if you have any asks of either like listeners who are experiencing painful sex, or there might be other practitioners listening. Do you have any asks of them?
Well, I mean, my like business brain is like very product focused, but at the same time, we're talking about, being human. The ask that I would say is, if people have questions, we actually just created a resource called the Pain Perception Project. And what it is, we created a custom intake form for practitioners. And we used validated questionnaires and validated intake forms to assemble a collection of questions to bring to your gynecology office, to bring to your pelvic PT, to bring to a general practitioner that's inclusive of pelvic health, sexual health, and life quality. And
yeah, that's good.
To go along with that, we've also created all these resources to find, find a provider links. So going through all the major associations that have properly trained clinicians and providers to give the support that we actually deserve and need. So if there's ever any questions, like, I don't claim to have all of the answers. No, not one person could.
Yeah.
But just to come, to the Pain Perception Project, use Ohnut as that excuse to spark conversation, because it's kind of weird and kind of silly, and it sounds like donut, but it's like a pleasure product. Yeah. And then, it could serve this purpose. You could do this thing with it. It is that neutral ground that sparks conversation. And it's like, listen, I'm like a young female entrepreneur who made a product in their kitchen. There's a million things to talk about that are less sensitive. So really just to bring up the dialogue, and if Ohnut is appropriate, the more we can create a dialogue around that as well, the better.
The better. Yeah. So then the question becomes, have we missed anything important that you want to say about the product that we haven't sort of covered?
Oh man, there's a million directions we could go in, but I feel like at this, where we are right now, no, very honestly.
Do you have, and I should have double checked this, but since we're on the call, I'm going to ask you anyways. Are there any like quick tutorial video?
Yes. We have all
Videos for
kinds of
people?
video content. There's testimonials, there's couple testimonials, there's male testimonials, there's a how-to video. We have a ton of resources online. Also our educational content, which we call Just the Tip.
I love it.
That includes our participation in conferences like the Transgender Wellness Conference. And we talk about cancer treatment and like sex after cancer, sex after pregnancy, sex after fibroids. It's, any kind of question, or sex if you have no idea and it's just painful. We really try to create a holistic educational resource when people just want to have a basic understanding. And all of our information materials are rooted in scientific data.
Yeah.
We don't just write opinion pieces for the sake of SEO.
Yeah. Yeah. You're researching it. Yeah.
We're researching it. PubMed is our friend.
Yes. I missed PubMed and I now have access to it again, and I'm just so excited. Yeah. Yeah. So
it's like a library at your fingertips.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, check us out on Instagram. We're at Ohnut Co. That seems to be where all the kids go these days for dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah. And
is there anywhere? Okay. So, of course I'm going to post the link, to the Instagram in our show notes. But what's the website? Where can people buy the product? Like,
great.
Yeah.
It's ohnut.co, OHNUT.co. And also, if you Google Ohnut, you will get a plethora of responses, and we are the one and only Ohnut. So unless you're buying nuts, there actually is a nut store called Ohnuts. So either you can find us or buy some nuts, or do both. It's really choose your own adventure. And then, so our website, the painperceptionproject.com. So it's painperception.com. And then our Instagram as well at Ohnut Co.
Amazing. So if people have feedback and things like that, they should be able to do it either through Instagram or through the website, to send comments, and of course order the product as well.
And again, we might pick up a small battle soon. Facebook has officially flagged our content, which is really unfortunate because we're not really positioning as a sex toy, and we don't talk about the same pleasure, like the global pleasure language that is used amongst sex toy products. It's really, enjoyment focused, partnership focused, and we're still not allowed to advertise. So if and when that dust cloud kind of picks up, it'd be nice to have some
Facebook content.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so far so good. I mean, we're sold in 40 countries around the world now, and we're in shops ranging from Good Vibrations, Babeland, Museum of Sex, to Urban Outfitters. Urban Outfitters is one of our biggest retailers.
I saw that when I Googled it here in Canada, and I was like, aren't they a clothing store? But apparently the answer is no. Yeah.
Oh, they sell all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And then all the way over to the medical side, we're in outpatient pharmacies. Harvard's Cancer Research Center just picked us up. So it's amazing. The goal of this company is to be that bridge between a large, like unsupported, underrepresented audience, and then the clinicians who can really provide that help, and the partners who can be that direct contact along the way.
Absolutely.
I
think it's great. I love hearing what you guys are doing and the education, because I think, certainly it starts with letting people know they're not alone, and that they're, not broken, and that they're worthy of feeling good, and supporting that positive message, I think is so important. And it's kind of why I wanted to have the chat, to just be that person that helps to, to continue to spread the word out, because I think it's super important for everybody to feel good.
No, I so appreciate the work that you're doing. And I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation and the fact that people are listening to it is already such a massive step in the right direction. It's phenomenal. And then it just trickles down to generationally, where this is like, oh, that was a problem for you guys? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I want to say thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming on and first and foremost sharing your story and telling us, sort of the birth of this product, and but also bringing it down to the human side of like it isn't just the physical part, it's the whole person and
yeah,
the connection with your partner, and that it's more than just a product.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So
It means a lot to like hear that.
yeah.
Hopefully that resonates. But
Yeah. So
yeah,
thanks again. And of course, we always want to thank our listeners for listening. And this is like really important. So make sure you're sharing it out. If you see the posts on our Instagram at Living a Better Life podcast, like share it out. Share it because you don't know who this is going to help. And of course, not everybody's talking about it. So just you sharing it out is going to get to somebody who needs it, and you don't know how much you can improve somebody's life with one simple share. So make sure that you comment and share with everybody you know.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
yeah. And thanks again. And we'll say bye for now for everybody listening and watching. Till next time.